This is the Cool Meanderings with Dr. Germ G podcast. Thanks for listening. Welcome to Cool Meanderings with Dr. Germ G. I'm your host, Dr. Germ G. I'm still an aspiring writer, an educator, and someone who is a connoisseur of sports, music, entertainment, and of course, comics. And I have dusted off the microphone today after a little hiatus because I had to talk about the most recent MCU, that's the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the most recent addition to its library. That would be Deadpool and Wolverine, starring Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, both reprising their roles as X-Men characters. Reynolds, of course, played Deadpool in two flicks. Deadpool, the first Deadpool, that came out in 2016, and then Deadpool 2 in 2018. And we all know Hugh Jackman, who's been Wolverine since 2000. Wow, I can't believe it's been 24 years. But the movie didn't disappoint. You know, I thought it was a refreshing flick, a nice combination of comedy and some gory violence. Yeah, it was cool. I thought Reynolds and Jackman had great chemistry. You know, I loved their interplay throughout the film. You know, it was a nice superhero buddy flick. You know, it was the superhero buddy flick I didn't know I needed. Now, look, I enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I think this is probably the best film of Phase 5 so far in the MCU. I mean, we're still going to get the Captain America, The Brave New World in February of 2025, and then I think in May we're getting Thunderbolts. I had low expectations for those films, so in my mind, this is probably peak Phase 5. Overall, though, I would say the movie it's good. You know, it's not in my top 5 of MCU films, but it makes my top 10. I think it's probably 9 or 10 in my top 10 of MCU films. So, like, I didn't laugh tears like I did with the first Deadpool movie, but I enjoyed it. It was cool, you know. So the thing that I really liked about the film, I thought the opening credits were cool. You know, Ryan Reynolds is just funny. He's a funny guy. And I love the way he broke through the fourth wall. He accomplished what She-Hulk wasn't able to do. You know, She-Hulk was the Disney Plus show, I believe, starring Tatiana Maslany. I apologize for screwing up the last name. She's a great actress. She-Hulk, I thought, was an awesome character. Part of the show was, you know, the titular character breaking through the fourth wall and communicating with the audience. It didn't hit as well as it does with the Deadpool films for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, this was great, and you get a lot of that, and a lot of the characters, including but particularly Ryan, poking fun at himself and the Deadpool franchise, 20th Century Fox, which was acquired by Disney, which is how we get to see Deadpool and Wolverine in the MCU. So yeah, they really did a good job of poking fun at all of that. But the opening credits, the opening scene was awesome. I really enjoyed that. And let's see, I really enjoyed getting lots of the time variance authority from Loki. I loved seeing the TVA in this. It was awesome. I thought Matthew McFadden's character of Mr. Paradox was dope. I enjoyed it. I thought he was great. We'll call him an anti-hero / villain. He was sort of a squishy character that was kind of good, but not really. You know, we'll call him a shady character in the movie. Yeah, I liked his character. I enjoyed it. Thought he was, star of the film. The cameos were awesome. Man, the cameos were so dope. It was great to see Daphne Keane as X-23. Man, yo, she grew up so fast. I feel so old. But for those of you that don't follow the X-Men franchise, Daphne Keane plays a young girl in Logan from the 20th Century Fox X-Men movies, and in that film, basically that version of Wolverine dies, saving X-23 and lots of her friends who were subjects. They were all mutants who were basically test subjects. And so Logan sacrifices himself in what was probably one of the better, if not the best, of all the X-Men films on the 20th Century Fox. So she's in this movie, as well as Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes is Blade. Yo, it was so, man, oh my God. I couldn't believe Blade was in this movie. It was so awesome to see Blade, especially given that, we've been waiting for the Mahershala Ali version of Blade to come into the big screen. And for whatever reason, the delays just keep coming with that movie. But I was so grateful to see Wesley. But he didn't just have a cameo. I mean, he played a significant role in the second half of the film. I mean, and it was weird. It was like Blade. It's just like seeing Blade from 20 years ago. I mean, it was just amazing. Yeah, I mean, Wesley Snipes he ages well. I'll just say that. And I'm hoping that we get another Snipes cameo, maybe in that long-awaited Blade reboot, or maybe in Secret Wars. But man, it was so dope to see Wesley Snipes as Blade. And I'm glad that he and Ryan Reynolds worked it out. They were in Blade 3 20 years ago. Blade 3, I think they called it the Blade Trinity. It came out in 2004, 20 years ago. So, hey, reportedly they had some issues. They weren't the best of friends, but they found a way to work it out, which I'm grateful for, because it worked. Having Wesley Snipes as Blade in this movie definitely, absolutely worked. It was perfect. So I'm glad they did it. The Deadpools, man, I couldn't believe they had an army of Deadpools. That was so dope. I loved it. I loved seeing all the Deadpool variants. Lady Deadpool, Dog Pool, Nice Pool. I'm not going to spoil it all. You got to go see it. But, man, it was amazing. That whole scene was funny. And it was a pretty chunky scene. Oh, it was great. It was great. So to me, those were like my favorite aspects of the movie. The parts that I thought were meh. I thought the overall story was kind of meh. It was okay. Not as awesome as I expected. Given the trailers and the build up, the stakes were there. But it was a little underwhelming. It'll be interesting to see how this movie ties into the quote-unquote multiverse saga, because, the multiverse saga has been anything but a saga at this point. But it's definitely relevant because of the TVA and the presence of the TVA. I mean, the TVA is central in this movie. And obviously, the issue with Deadpool messing with timelines and his own timeline being fractured, potentially fractured as a result, I think is awesome. But the story ends in a way where it could easily be a one-off movie. I mean, it could tie into this quote-unquote multiverse saga, but it could easily just be, were they in Deadpool and all these other characters from 20th Century Fox? It would have been cool if they had a little bit more of a tie-in to movies like, say, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, or Quantumania. there's some overlap. I mean, there is some. But, it would have been nice if they had a little more, you know? I thought Emma Corrin's character as Cassandra Nova was okay. Cassandra Nova in the comics is Professor Charles Xavier's twin sister. They're, I guess, in the womb. I think in the womb they had a little bit of a struggle, but essentially, she was removed. Anyway, but Xavier doesn't really know of her existence until at some point later on in life. And anyway, I'm not going to get into the comic version of the character, but in the movie, she does play Professor Charles Xavier's twin, and she was quite overpowered. I wasn't sure if they would make much use of her character, given the way the middle of the movie went. It just seemed like, okay, there's this really overpowered mutant that can easily handle everyone around her. So so what's the point of her existence? What is her purpose in this film? And we do see it in the final third of the movie, which is great. We get that payoff. We get to see the relevance of Cassandra Nova, what her overall purpose was. And, it was interesting. It was cool. Initially, though, I found her a little dull. But by the end of the movie, okay. Yeah. And even then, she was an okay villain, I thought the pace seemed to lag at times, especially early in the film, after the opening credits, but before Deadpool is apprehended by the TVA. Now, those scenes that I'm referencing, they're important to the film. They're central to the film, but it just seemed to, I don't know, it just seemed to just drag a little bit. I don't know, it just didn't hit with me. What can I say? And, in terms of cameos, I liked seeing Chris Evans as the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four, again, the 20th Century Fox series. But it felt like, I don't know, it was just weird because I'm so used to seeing him as Captain America, and here he is as Johnny Storm. But I guess it was just weird. That's all I can say. I don't know. I just wasn't buying it. It felt like he wasn't buying it. He did it. He's an actor. He did his job. He was professional. It was passable, but maybe it's age. His age, my age. It was fine, but not anything overly impressive. I don't know. It just felt like a weird, you know what it felt like? It felt like when you have a hit show that comes back for the TV reunion, and some of the characters they come in and they just seem to sort of fit right back into that setting, and others just seem like a fish out of water. Well, he seemed a little bit like a fish out of water. Like, he just didn't seem believable as Johnny Storm anymore. He's been Captain America through, a decade. He took us through, to infinity and back. I don't know. It's hard. After Endgame, it's hard to then see him as Human Torch. Again, he's a great actor. He pulled it off. But for me, it was okay. And, Jennifer Garner, she's in the movie as Elektra from the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck. She was okay. Kind of meh. Now, there were some parts that I really didn't enjoy. Chief among them was Channing Tatum as Gambit. Yes, the action scenes were cool, but he had way too many lines. Yo, who gave this guy all these lines? I'm glad they never made a Gambit anything with this guy. His costume looks so weird. Seriously though, his lines, his voice was so cringe. He looked and sounded like a direct-to-video version of Gambit from the 1990s. I mean, thankfully, VFX and CGI did its magic with the fight scenes, which were awesome. But you take that out of it, I mean, yo, this guy, I like Channing Tatum, but man, and kudos to him for doing whatever voice coaching he did to prepare himself for the Gambit role. I mean, he made a strong effort. It's just, I don't know, the costume's so weird. Like, I don't know, like, whoever designed that, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so it was cool, kind of, to have Gambit, but I also found some of you get to see in the early part of the film some Wolverine variants. This is a spoiler, but you get to see one Wolverine variant that is Henry Cavill. I wasn't buying it. He just was so bulky and hairy. He just didn't look like a Wolverine. What can I say? I don't know. I'm just not buying him as Wolverine. He looked like almost like a hulked out version of Wolverine. It's just, I don't know. This is really weird. And I thought some of the jokes felt a little flat for me. I mean, maybe it's me, I've aged since the first Deadpool film in 2016. The world has changed since then, and I don't know. I just didn't laugh as much as I'd hoped. I think overall the movie was very good, but not epic. It wasn't an epic film. It wasn't a great film. It was just good. It was really good, which is, I think, a little disappointing. And maybe the problem is me and my expectations. But I went into the film expecting to be blown away. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. Would I go see it again in the theaters? I don't think so. Look, it was a fun experience, but I can't say that I'm dying to see it again. In fact, there are only a handful of MCU films where I could watch over and over and over again. Whenever it gets to Disney Plus, I may watch it again. I mean, it's definitely, again, it's better than, put it this way. It's one of the best films in the multiverse saga, quote unquote saga. I mean, if you look at the films because I guess the multiverse saga is the films from phases 4, 5, and soon to be 6. I mean, if you look at phase 4, let's see. I think phase 4, I would say the best film of the multiverse saga so far has been Spider-Man No Way Home. So I thought, yeah, that's still the best film. This movie wasn't better than Spider-Man No Way Home. I did enjoy it. I've got to watch Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness again. I would say this was probably a little better, although Wanda's no joke in that movie. But, I would say, yeah, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, that was a good movie, but I'd say Deadpool is probably as good as, I think Deadpool is on par with Shang-Chi. And Wakanda Forever, it's probably a little better than Wakanda Forever. I thought Wakanda Forever, it dragged a little bit. It was a great film. I loved it. I did love Wakanda Forever, but it did drag a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I haven't rewatched that one either. So I would say, and to be honest, I haven't rewatched most of the Multiverse Saga films. I mean, the only film that I've watched more than once is Spider-Man No Way Home. I started to watch, I've seen it, I saw Eternals again recently, after finding out that they have no plans, Marvel has no plans in the immediate future to make a Eternals sequel. So I went and watched it again, and I think Eternals is probably the most underappreciated MCU film overall. I think it's better than some of the MCU films from the Infinity Saga. I mean, it's a good Eternals is a good film. It's I think it's a little misunderstood, but there's a lot that's packed into Eternals. Now it's not the film's fault that the MCU couldn't capitalize on a lot of nuggets. That movie lays the groundwork for all kinds of projects that just didn't get off the ground. But that's not the fault of the Eternals movie. That's just, hey, look, it might have been a little highbrow for the audience. I don't know. I thought it was a decent flick, Yeah. I thought Eternals was underappreciated. No, I think Deadpool and Wolverine is better than Eternals, but I would say if I had to place this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, somewhere within the multiverse saga, it's probably in the top 5 for the multiverse saga at this point, and that's not saying a whole lot because there are only a handful of films that are on par. I would say Spider-Man No Way Home is the best. And then you can make an argument for Deadpool and Wolverine, Shang-Chi, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. You can make an argument for any of those. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Yeah. The thing with that film is that's definitely a standalone film. That could somehow tie into Secret Wars down the road, but it definitely doesn't feel part of the multiverse saga. So, now, Phases 4 and 5 have lots of disappointing films, for sure. And even some of the ones that I've mentioned, like Multiverse of Madness, quite frankly, I thought Deadpool and Wolverine was more of a Multiverse of Madness film than the actual Multiverse of Madness film, quite frankly. So, but I'm not the only one that said that. A lot of people have felt that way. So, overall, though, I thought director Sean Levy, Marvel president Kevin Feige, Disney, they did a great job. They delivered. But they did it in a way where, the expectations are there and the anticipation, the hopes are there, but it's not unreasonable like before. The mid-credits, post-credit scenes are nice, but you don't get any. There aren't any other promises that would leave the MCU hanging out to dry with more unfulfilled promises. I think that's been a recurring theme with a lot of these MCU films of late. You get these awesome mid-credit, end-credit scenes, and they go unfulfilled. I mean, you go down the list, from even Eternals, where's that Blade film? What's up with Black Knight, huh? Star Fox. I mean, wow. Yeah, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. I mean, I could probably spend 20 minutes just talking about, all of the unfulfilled promises from mid-credit and post-credit MCU films. But hey, this podcast episode is a celebration of, well, quite frankly, a celebration of the MCU franchise. With this film, reportedly, the MCU crossed $30 billion at the box office. That's fantastic. And, that's a big credit to Kevin Feige and Marvel and Disney and all the creative talent. Man, it's just, I think as a fan, sometimes we take for granted just how lucky we are to have all this great content. To see all these heroes that many of us grew up reading and fantasizing about now coming to life in these, pretty awesome to epic movies and now TV shows. And there's more on the way. At some point in the near future, I'll do another podcast episode to talk about Marvel's announcements at the recent San Diego Comic-Con convention. Yeah, they definitely dropped a few surprises and left us fans a little bit confounded. But Secret Wars is on the way. We're getting Doctor Doom. It looks like Robert Downey Jr. is going to be Doctor Doom, so that'll be cool. That'll be fun to talk about. And I think I'm also going to do an episode about the USA men's basketball team at the 2024 Olympics in Paris. I think this is an interesting team, and it's an interesting time in international basketball play because the world is catching up quickly. So, all the comparisons to the 92 team are, I would say that they require some perspective because not only has the world changed, but basketball has evolved in part because of that 92 dream team. But with the evolution of basketball is increased competition. And that means that, our guys here in the U.S. really have to step up their game. Not just on the court, but in their heads, too. You've got to have guys that are mentally bought into the idea that they've got to compete on this level, especially now when you have to wonder if the incentive is even there. I mean, guys they're playing in seemingly the league in the world, the NBA, National Basketball Association. Many of the players that are on these teams now, they're maxed contract players. Some are NBA champions, future Hall of Famers. Some are already Olympic medalists. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting team, interesting cast of players. So that'll be cool to talk about. But yeah, I just wanted to drop a quick line and share my thoughts on Deadpool 3 or Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought it was an awesome film. Again, wasn't epic. It wasn't great, but it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah, definitely a second tier MCU film for me. I think that's going to be it for this episode. And for those that are listening, I appreciate your listening ears. And hey, if you've got a question for me or you've got some thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine or anything else you want to hear from my podcast, feel free to drop me a line at drgermg@coolmeanderings.com. You could also check out some of my other episodes on coolmeanderings.com or find my podcast on Spotify or Amazon Music. All right. Until next time, I'm out.
This is the Cool Meanderings podcast with Dr. Germ G.